Well, welcome into the 9th edition of this week's Weather Hangout, and we got almost the whole family with us this time. This week.
We call this a crowd.
Yeah. Yes.
It's great to see you guys.
Good to be here. Yeah, it's actually the first time I've done a hangout with you, Chris, so it's kind of good to have everybody in.
It is. It's our little nerd out session where we can talk all things weather related, but also catch up with each other and, of course, connect with you. And it's great to see everybody if you're joining us on YouTube or on WTOL 11+. We love that you've found us here, and of course want you to share it with your friends and families. We get a little bit deeper into the weeds with some topics, and we're looking forward to what we're going to be talking about this episode.
Yeah, hard to believe this is already number 9, and we're already well underway in November, even though it doesn't quite feel like it outside.
Exactly. We still got that warmer weather, but hopefully we can start kind of coming into some winter or colder topics that we'll be
hopefully.
That's typically how it goes this time of the year. In fact, if we look at some of the data and statistics, we've all felt that this has been one of the warmest starts to November in Toledo's history. But have you ever heard the term, the gales of November?
Well, it is always windy this time of year.
It makes sense for this area.
It does, yeah. So the terminology does come from widespread windstorms and big storms that typically kick up this time of the year. One in particular had big implications here in the Great Lakes region, and it was back in 1975.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and we're coming up to the anniversary of that, one of the more historic storms. I remember first learning about this. I did a book report in 6th grade on the Edmund Fitzgerald. And of course, know about the rich history that has here with the Toledo area. It shipped ore to the Toledo ports, and of course, Captain McSorley was from Toledo. He actually called Ottawa Hills home.
Yeah, all the history buffs out there are really going to love that. I hope you got an A on that book report, Chris.
I think so.
If not, just make up for it.
I think so, because
we'll
one of those things that sparked kind of passion for weather, too. It was a storm that impacted the Great Lakes region that still is remembered to this day, the gales of November on the Great Lakes.
Yeah. That's a great title.
And of course, November here in the Great Lakes region can kind of be a little bit of anything and everything. We've had the warmth. We're talking snow in our upcoming forecast. Finally, I know, I'm sure you guys have kind of heard, everybody's like, wait, you said the S word?
S word.
So yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. So we are kind of even talking about that, but that's not the whole focus of this week's Weather Hangout. So
but it is the clash of the seasons, right?
Yes.
And did you actually know this, that we can get, and we frequently do see, outbreaks of severe weather in the month of November? We don't have any expectations that is going to be occurring this month, at least at this point. But tornadoes, not all that uncommon in the month of November.
Yeah, even thinking back on last week, what folks down south saw, a tornado outbreak with that, moderate risk of severe weather. That's rare, but it's not totally out of the question for this time of year, especially the further south you go.
And we'll have more coming up on the 20th anniversary of the Wert tornado, which occurred right here in Northwest Ohio, a very powerful tornado, and also some stuff on the tropics, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, not necessarily unseasonably for those tropics, but, I mean, we're pretty much at the last month of tropics, so we'll be covering that. And something that's brewing and getting close to Florida as we go the next couple of days.
I thought we were done with this one. Still got a little gas left in the tank for hurricane season.
Still got a couple of days left.
Yeah, just when you think, oh, we're finally, continuing on that recovery, now we have another thing that we have to keep an eye on.
Well, speaking of hurricanes, take a look at this fun fact about hurricanes, and we'll continue on with our Weather Hangout coming up right after this. All right, hopefully you got the right answer on that one, and we'll have more on the tropics coming up in just a little bit. But how about the gales of November? The Edmund Fitzgerald was initially commissioned into the Great Lakes June 8th of 1958, and at that time, it was one of the largest and most significant freighters ever to sail the waters of Lake Erie. At a length of 729 feet, it weighed over 13,000 tons, and it quickly took on the nickname the Mighty Fitz or the Great Great Fitz. And the last voyage of the Edmund Fitzgerald did take place starting November 9th through the November 10th of 1975. It encountered a major Great Lakes storm where the gales on Lake Superior kicked up 50 to 70 knots and waves. Hard to imagine this one. 25 feet with swells up to 35 feet. Now, the gales of November. Edmund Fitzgerald officially did sink November 10th, 1975. There were 29 souls on board that lost their lives on that fateful evening, including Captain McSorley, which was among those lost. Captain McSorley did hail from Toledo, from the Ottawa Hills area. So many people have a rich history with this storm system. And of course, the Edmund Fitzgerald made frequent stops here in Toledo. So this was the path of this one, departed Duluth, Minnesota on November 9th. Now, with this storm kicking up, the expectation was it was going to be sailing across Lake Superior with the Anderson, and they were going to take a more sheltered route with that easterly wind coming onshore, trying to shelter themselves from the Canadian coast. Eventually, though, this storm system crossed right over their path. This area of low pressure continued to deepen. The winds whipped around out of the west-northwest, and that's when those gales really kicked up, and the seas got extremely choppy in the neighborhood of 25 to 30-foot seas. And just off of Whitefish Bay and Whitefish Point is when the Edmund Fitzgerald eventually did sink on November 10th, 1975. One of the last known communications with this, the Anderson was speaking out to Captain McSorley, and Captain McSorley said, at this time, we are holding our own. Within minutes, there was no additional communication with the Edmund Fitzgerald. We'll have more on this, of course, as we go through the coming month of November. Stick around, though. Take a look at this next fun fact as we keep rolling.
Wow, 42 inches. Can you even believe that? And it was actually from tropical storm. And speaking of tropical storms, that's what we're dealing with, at least down in the Florida area, where they do, in fact, have Tropical Storm Nicole. Those max sustained winds just around 70 miles per hour. So as we look at least our time on where we are as far as those hurricane names are, well, we've seen 4 category storms, whether that's either Fiona or Ian, right where we are right now. Nicole, we still got a little bit to go, just around 20 days left in this hurricane season. So looking at it right now, all those cities along the coast of the Atlantic Florida, seeing those wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour, even 40 in Melbourne. So it's going to slowly make its way closer as we go into the next couple of hours, even the next couple of days at least. So some of those reports, or those local storm reports coming in with those outer bands rolling in right now, just out into the Florida area. Those wind gusts up to 58 miles per hour. So we'll likely see even higher wind gusts as this storm gets closer as we head into tonight and even into tomorrow morning. So looking at the track of this, it's going to slowly make its way in to the Florida coast. There's possibly a Cat 1 hurricane tonight and even to early Thursday morning. And the timing out for you is going to be a bit of a bowling ball as we go into the next couple of hours, that is. So as we look at the hour by hour for it, we'll likely see just around Thursday, around 1 a.m. That'll be the peak part to watch out for, as we could likely see landfall just around 1 a.m. So it could be dark pretty much in around the midnight area, where we could likely see landfall. And even if the worst of this storm is around 5 a.m., it could likely still be dark out, where we could likely see that strong eye making landfall. It causes some heavy rain, possibly even some storm surge. As we go into 10 a.m., it'll eventually make its way across Florida and possibly back in parts of the Gulf of Mexico into even Tampa. Could see some rainfall, heavy rainfall at times, and even into Panama City, where you could likely see the remnants of Tropical Storm Nicole right now. So eventually will make its way into either the Alabama area and even into Atlanta area as well. But where will we go after this? We got meteorologist Diane Phillips to break down if it will affect us or anyone in the Northwest Ohio area.
Yes, we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on this. Of course, we also have some family and friends that are down there into those coastal states. And of course, we're going to be checking in with them to make sure that they are managing, considering that we had Hurricane Ian at the end of September. Seeing this was not a welcome sign on the weather data, but nonetheless, we are going to have to work with it. And well, how then is this going to affect us here at home? Is the storm going to be moving into us? Well, of course, we can get some remnants here in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan from those tropical cyclones. And that's what we're going to be watching, is how close do these remnants get? So as they head out of the Georgia area, you are going to find that this storm is going to continue to travel further north. And otherwise, you are going to find that those conditions are going to allow for those to continue to advance northward. So as this line continues to move further north, that means that we are going to have the cloud cover. That's going to be ushering in for Friday. And then here you're going to already find that a lot of this rainfall, that is off towards just the edge of our viewing area. But it's going to continue to push northward. And you can see that about half of us are going to be watching that radar on the WTOL 11 weather app for some wet weather as we get into Friday. And though if you are east of I-75, you're going to run that best chance. But I also want to point out the time of day. Friday night, we have playoff football still going on, and you probably have some evening plans. That rainfall should work its way out by then. Now, it's been a pretty dry and autumn season that we definitely are going to remember. So far, 9th driest autumn, meteorological autumn, that is. In the month of October, we picked up less than an inch of rainfall. We could use a lot more than that. And so far this month, even to about just a week and a half, we haven't seen a lot of water. So will we make up for that? Well, the answer is probably not. You're going to find that a lot of the rain totals are going to be east of I-75, and well, they don't really add up to all that much. A ½ inch at the very best. Mainly, we'll be looking at a ¼ inch of rainfall from the remnants of Tropical Storm Nicole. Now, of course, though, we're going to have a look at those rain chances and to see if they could even bleed into the weekend. But with its early exit Friday night, you're going to find it's mainly Thursday into Friday that we'll be watching for those rain chances. But thankfully, our Saturday and Sunday, dry weather. And as far as that climb, well, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But of course, with a little bit of dry weather and on that weekend forecast, we're going to make sure that, of course, these remnants don't budge any little bit in time. So, of course, stay updated with us on the WTOL 11 weather app, because we're also monitoring some pretty chilly air. So there's a lot going on in the weather world. And of course, we still have so much more coming up here on the WTOL 11 Weather Hangout.
Well, that means we're getting very close to meteorological winter as well. But did you know that this November actually marks 20 years since the historic November tornado outbreak? Now, take a look at this. November 10th, 2002, Van Wert was devastated by an F4 tornado. This 3-day tornado event is considered one of the worst November outbreaks of tornadoes in the U.S. history. Over 3 days, from the 9th through the 12th, a total of 82 tornadoes twisted through 14 states from the Ohio Valley to the Deep South. The strongest hitting Van Wert, leveling Van Wert's Twin Cinemas movie theater. Images I will never forget. A motorist nearby was killed, and the tornado did maintain F3 strength into Putnam County, where 2 more fatalities were reported near Continental when the tornado destroyed a mobile home. The tornado did weaken into Henry County as an EF0 strength, and another F3 tornado was reported in Seneca County, which resulted in another fatality. In total, 5 confirmed deaths in Ohio, with a staggering 36 people killed nationwide and over 300 injured. More recently, tornadoes in November of 2013 struck northwest Ohio on the evening of November 17th. A EF2 tornado with a path length of over 11 miles twisted through Cloverdale in western Putnam County. This tornado had max wind speeds of 130 miles per hour with a width of 440 yards. The greatest damage occurred in Cloverdale, where the roof and walls of St. Barbara Catholic Church were blown in. A total of 14 homes were severely damaged, with 10 structures destroyed and multiple vehicles also destroyed. And finally, as well, we're going to be talking about November 5th of 2017, a total of 8 tornadoes across northwest Ohio. And those tornadoes happened in in parts of eastern Seneca County, Sandusky, Erie, and Huron counties. The strongest was near Republic, and it was rated an EF2 in strength. Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a good word of caution to many of our viewers that we very well could be talking about still severe weather threats this time of year.
November is often considered our second severe weather season. Of course, the spring is what comes to mind when you think of tornadoes and severe weather, but November historically does not disappoint as far as those severe storms go, and a lot of history buffs, I'm sure, remember those storms that you talked about.
They do, and those images, especially the Van Wert movie theater, will stick with me forever to see that movie theater in the shape that it was, and to know that at that specific location, everyone was okay there. Unfortunately, though, it was one of the deadliest tornadoes that year in all of Ohio, so it can happen any month of the year.
And one of the things to consider is by that time we're thinking, oh, we're done with severe weather. So a lot of us have let our guard down at that point, but we really can't because, like you said, it's kind of that second round of severe weather.
Yeah, you got to stay on alert, and we'll keep you safe and updated. That WTOL 11 weather app's a great tool, and of course, on air, we'll keep you safe and updated.
Before we leave you today, we need to bring in our resident astronauts. Meteorologist Matt Willoughby, where are you, my friend? All right, so fill us in on what is going on with outer space and how weather could impact how things may be happening.
Yeah, exactly. So due to the tropical storm Nicole, that has pretty much delayed it. So this is what we can expect. Got a little fun little AR thing for you.
Oh, man.
So
it's originally what it will look like.
I always thought it'd be cool to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's taking off on us.
Oh, it's a little hot. But I don't mind that. You know, the heat
felt
from
the blast, yeah. So, all right, are the tropics impacting this at all?
Yeah, exactly. So the tropics are impacting. Due to that launch was actually next Monday, just around 12:07. They have pushed that back to Wednesday. That rescheduled just around November 16th.
Now, the purpose of this launch?
So the purpose of the launch is to see if we can put people on the moon. So that would kind of be like a test run to see if we can get some folks up on the moon, some of those astronauts on the moon.
Oh, that's amazing.
Got to wait another delay. This will actually be third or fourth
Mother
delay.
Nature keeps getting in the way.
Exactly.
Okay, between the four of us, who we sending to the moon?
Just make sure we can do a live shot, too.
I'm going to go with John.
Okay, so you're going to go, John? Was that a
John.
volunteer wave I saw?
I don't know. We volunteered to send John to the moon. Of course, we love him. We love our team right here. And we love that you've joined us for this week's Weather Hangout. We get to talk all things weather and science, and there's no limit to the topics that we could discuss. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love to hear your comments, and our streaming WTOL 11 Plus. We're going to continue to provide you great content. A little bit of a tease what's going to be coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to be talking winter and our winter weather outlooks.
Ready or not?
Are you ready? Quick show of hands.
I think I am.
I'm not. It's too warm.
I'm not ready for the cold, but I'm ready for the snow.
Yeah, wait till after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We just need to get Matt sled riding.
Yes.
Part two.
That's the content we all need.
That is what we need. We
He's
need more
excited.
Matt Willoughby sled riding. We appreciate you joining us for this week's Weather Hangout. Have a great one.